Hello everyone, welcome to your week 3. So this week we are going to focus on lesson 5, 6, 7 and 8 in your course from your test book. So we're going to start with lesson 5. The lesson 5 focus on the budget, and then once we finish going through the budget, then we're going to look at lesson 6, and the lesson 6 is going to focus on recording business transactions using the GL batches. And those are the two important chapters that we're going to cover in this week, and then we also going to ended up completing lesson 7 and 8. Lesson 7 and 8, there is nothing much for you guys to take or make notes, but it's important that you understand how you can get into the detail for the journal ledger accounts, and if you were to pull the transaction detail, how you can pull that using the journal ledger module. And then lesson 8, we are gonna see how we're gonna close the journal ledger module. What are the key things that you need to know? And once you finish all of them, you should be good to go in regards to the journal ledger module, that we would have covered up everything that you need to know from the journal ledger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide these lectures into lesson 5 first, and then once we finish lesson 5, then we jump into lesson 6, then we do 7 and 8 together. So let's get started with lesson 5. So lesson 5 is focus on budgets. So when you did simply counting, which is the Sage 50, there was no budgets that we created. So in a bigger companies, it's important the companies create a budget at the beginning of the year and then use that budget to compare the actual numbers. So now Sage 300 allows us to create budgets for different accounts. And once the budgets are created, then we can use the actual results and pull up the reports to compare the actuals with the budgets. So now to get started with lesson 5, if you're working on your computer on your C drive, then as soon as you finish lesson 4, you open Sage 300, open Omni Electronics, and then you start from exercise 5.1. You don't need any end of lesson backup, but in case if you wanted to use my file, which is the software itself, that you don't want to use your file, you want to use my file, what you can do is you can do the same thing that I'm going to do for app streaming. You will download the end of lesson 4, do a database load to Omni Electronics, that will replace your file, then you start from 5.1. But if you're comfortable with your own file, then you can continue from where you left by starting your work from exercise 5.1. And then if you're using the app stream, you are going to go through the same process that we used in the previous lectures. So remember what I said to you guys, if you are going to start lesson 5, what you need is you need a work up until the end of lesson 4 completed. So now what you need to do is you need an end of lesson 4 to start the week 5 work. So you are going to go into your Blackboard, and you're going to find everything that you need is under week 3. So you come into week 3, you have end of lesson 4 and 5 here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open download end of lesson 4, and this is going to be downloaded on my computer, and it is a zipped file that just go download it. I don't need to unzip because I'm going to upload the zip file as it is to the Humber application. So first step is download the file. The second step is upload it on the app stream. So now to go on the app stream, you need to go on the website, on the Humber website, click on the business goal, and then you're going to enter your login information. And once you log in, you're going to select Sage 300. Going forward, I'm gonna have this one logged in before I come in. You guys know where to go and what the process is. It will save us a minute or two in the lecture. So I will just do that for today, and starting next week, I'm simply gonna get into it before we start. So this will take some time to download to register the session. Now a few things I wanted to tell everybody is in week 3 you are doing lesson 6 to 8, but the key focus for you is learning lesson 6 and 7. sorry, lesson 5, so it's actually 5 to 8, not 6 to 8, it's 5 to 8. So but lesson 5 and 6 are the most important one from there. And there is an additional exercise I'm going to assign you guys at the end, which I will give you guys more detail in our live lecture during our class time. And I'm not giving you end of lesson 6 and 7. What I recommend is use end of lesson 5 to complete 6, 7 and 8 all together, because there's not going to be much that's going to be required for you to do in 7 and 8. So I recommend you to use end of lesson 5, then complete 6, 7 and 8 all together. Okay, let's see. Okay, so the session is registered. So now if you go back to our step, first download the file, which we did, and then upload it on the app stream. So now in step 2, so you're going to go online and upload it on the temporary folder. So you go into the temporary folder right here and upload the file, and it is sitting in my downloads. So I'm going to upload that right here. So now this is done. Then you're going to, so in step 2 what I said is upload it and also unzip it. So now what you're going to do is you are going to go on the app stream and unzip that. So we uploaded it. Now we're going to go into 7-zip, find that file, and then click extract. Okay. Once the file is extracted, now what you're going to do is you're going to do a database load. So the next step is perform the database load to Omni Sys and Omni Dat from end of lesson 4. So we are going to go into the database load. Admin. And then we're going to find. Remember I said to you is always look for the parent folder, which is this one, not that one. So you press OK and OmniDat. We'll link that or with OmniDat to the OmniDat and OmniSys to the OmniSys. Once you finish, you click finish, and this will upload your database into the database file on Sage 300. Now you are going to open Sage 300. Once you open Sage 300, you are going to select OmniDat, and you are going to enter the session date that you have in your test book, which I assume is 01/01/2021. I just want to confirm that this is the correct date that we need to use. It is. We can press OK. Now this file that you're going to have, it's going to have everything that is complete up to lesson 4. The very first thing that you're going to do is when you're logged in, you want to change the company name to include your name at the end, and also have your name as the contact person as well. Okay, save and close. Okay, so now you're in. Now for this exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to work on budget. Okay, so when you come into the GL account, the budget maintenance is right here. So when you click on the budget maintenance, what you see is this is the platform or the application that we're going to use in the Sage to enter the budget. So before I get into the process of creating a budget, I want to show you what the budget is. So in Sage, by default, you can create 5 different budget sets. Okay, do we need to set up all the 5 budget sets? No, we don't. Usually company use one, that's more than sufficient. But then if there's some companies that are big enough, they wanted to create 2 different budget sets on 2 different scenarios, they can create two budget sets. Okay, and then when they compare it, then you have to mention which budget they want to compare with. Okay, so for us, we're only going to keep it very simple. We're going to only create one budget set. Now, when you create a budget, the very first thing that you want to do is you want to pull up which account you want to set up the budget for. Okay, for example, we're going to start with the revenue account. Usually the budgets are done for the income and revenue account, not the asset liability accounts. Okay, you wanted to predict how much budget you want to have for the revenues and the expenses. So we're going to start with the 4500 account. That's the first account we have, and that's the sales account for the 100 division. Then we're going to say we're going to create a budget set 1 for which year? We have 2020 and 2021. So now 2020 was the previous year, so we don't need to worry about the previous year. We wanted to do is 2021. Now you want to see if there was any budget that was set up for this account. So to do that, you have to click on this arrow right here. When you do that, it tells you if there is a budget. Right now there is no budget. Now there are different budget methods that we have. Okay, now before we set up, I want to explain you what these different methods that we have. Now depending on what example I give you, the scenario I give you, you will use one of these methods. So there's a fixed method. That means you set up a fixed amount, and that is the fixed amount per period, and that gets set up. For example, we said for this sales account, and always remember negative represent credit and positive represent debit. So if I said this account has a $50,000 per month is the budget for the sales for 100 division, and I click here and I will say, so see that there are three options I have. Add. So add means we are adding the budget what you see on this screen. These are the functions that we're going to use: add to, replace, or clear. So if you have an information here you want to clear, you click clear and it will make it to 0. If you click add to, what this will do is this will take this amount and add it to the budget amount. So for example, here is 50,000. We're going to say add to. So it will add minus 50,000 per period. So the total budget is 600,000. If I say, you know what, no, I wanted to add another 5,000 into this budget. So what I can do is I can click add to. What this is going to do is it's going to add minus 5,000 in each of these periods. See this? This is how it works. Okay. So if I say no, you know what, this is not right. For me to set up a budget, it's supposed to be 50,000 only. 50,000 per month or per period. Now if I do replace, what this is going to do is going to replace this 55,000, whatever is on this screen, with this amount. If I click add to, it's going to add this minus 50,000 into each of these periods. Okay, so you have to be careful when you want to use one or the other. So here I'm going to say replace, so it will replace that with minus 50,000. Then I click add. Now I set up the budget for this account, and that's done. Then you move into the next account. So you're going to type in the next account 4,500 200. Okay, budget set 1 and click on the arrow, and now you see that there is no budget for this. So for this one, I don't know how much I'm going to do per month, but what I want to do is I have a budget amount which I want to predict for the entire year. So I said for the 200, my expectation is I wanted to make a 450,000 minus, because it's a revenue account, minus 450,000 for the entire year. So what I want the system to do is I spread this amount on a monthly basis. So instead of me putting a one amount per period, what I'll do is I'll say, you know, this is my budget. I want this to be divided among all these months. I click add to. So what this did, this amount divided by 12, and that goes in the monthly period. Now once you're happy with that, what you do is you click add. Okay, that's how you set up the budget for the revenue account. Okay, and then the next account that we want to set up the budget is the cost of sales. Okay, so cost of sale for 100, and I click on the arrow, there is 0 amount. So then I'm going to look at the next one I have is the base percentage increase. So I say, you know what, okay, I have a budget for 50,000 per month for the revenue, for what I'm expecting the cost to be around 30,000 per month. Okay, but I'm expecting that this will keep going up by 1% every month depending on the demand of the product. Okay, but I want to be conservative. What I say, you know what, I'm going to anticipate a 1% increase in the budget for the cost of sales. So in that case, I'm going to say, you know what, my base is 30,000 and will keep increasing by 1% every month. Okay, now see that I'm using positive here because expenses normal balance is debit, so therefore I put that as a positive amount. Now for me to add that to this place, I need to click on add to. So then I took 30,000, add 1%, 30,300, then add another 1% to that, and keep adding 1% per month. If you're happy with that, you click add. Okay, that's how you use the function called base percentage increase. And then the same thing happens with the base amount increase as well. Before it was percentage increase, the amount increase is a fixed amount that will increase per month. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the account 5,200, and for this one I'm going to say, you know what, for this one I anticipated my cost for that is 20,000, but in that one I'm going to assume that it's going to keep increasing by 1,000 per month. Okay, so now what this is going to do is going to add 20,000 as a base amount, and every month it's going to keep adding $1,000 into that. So if I am happy with that, I'm going to do is add 2, and then you assume, then you look at it, you review the budget. If you're happy with that, you click that. And copy as is. So now this function is a good function. The way this function works is that it will copy a budget from one account and create it for another account. Okay, so for example, now I'm going to create a budget. Let's pick up another account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a budget for the telephone 100 department. Okay, so for that one I'm going to use a fixed amount. I'm going to say for my telephone expenses for 100 division is $500 per month. Okay, and I'm going to say add 2, and that's my budget. I click add. So I created a budget for telephone expenses. So now what I wanted to do for telephone 200, okay, for telephone 200, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say copy the budget, which is the same budget for the telephone expenses. So if I want to copy as is, what I need to do is I need to use this function at the bottom. So here I'm going to say, can you find me the budget for telephone 100? So I'm going to go find the telephone 100 account right here. I don't want to see the actual. What I want to see is the budget set one for 2021, and I click on this arrow, and then this one shows me the budget for this account is 500. So if you want to copy as it is, then you use this function. I said add to, so it will copy exactly the same amount right here. I said no, that's not right. For the 200 division, because I'm anticipating that the 200 division is going to have more telephone calls because it's a machinery rental division, and we're going to anticipate that the cost, the budget for telephone expense for 200 division has to be higher than the 100 division. So we're going to say that it's going to increase by 10%. So now what it's going to do is going to take this amount and add 10% into that. So if I do replace, it's going to add it. It's going to, sorry, if I do add, it will add it. If I click replace, it's going to replace the amount with my new inquiry. Now this is adding 5% into it. Now if you're happy with that, you click add. Okay. Then the same thing that going to happen with the copy amount increase. So if you say, you know what, no, I have $500 budget, my new phone line, if I wanted to add another phone line, it costs me $60 per month. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to have this one increase by 10%. I'm going to increase that by $60. Now I'll click replace. What it did, it added $60 with this amount. Now if you're happy with that, you click save. Okay, so that's how you use all these functions. Now ignore the last one. We don't use prorated spread. So prorated spread is if you have certain companies that have a different sales in different months, then it will prorate based on a spread of that particular revenue or how your actual budgets were. So if your inquiry was 500 here, then there was 0 in the second period, and so far it prorate based on that spread. Okay, so we're not going to use copy prorate, so I want to make sure that you understand all the process from this up to the copy amount increase. So the way that I'm going to test you on this is I'll give you an example saying this is what I want you to set up a budget for. Then you set up a budget, then you click add or save. Once you're done, you finish entering the budget. Now when you set up the budget, it's very challenging to print a report. So in Sage 300 there is no particular place where you can print the budget report. The only way you can print a budget is you do exactly what I ask you to do. For example, for this company I said do a copy and then increase it by $60 per month. You can do exactly what you see on my screen. Once you finish, what you're going to do is you're going to go open the software called Snipping Tool, or you can do a print screen. Okay, so I prefer you use Snipping Tool. So Snipping Tool looks like this, and you're going to say new, and what you do is you copy this one right like this, the way that I'm doing right now, and then you click edit, copy, and open a Word file and then paste it here. Okay, so this was budget, account, telephone expense 200. So now I'm going to ask you to print another budget for the revenue account, for example. So I'm going to ask you to pull up the budget for, so you will not be asked to create so many budgets, probably be 2 accounts or 4 accounts, one or the other. And we click on the arrow. This was the budget you set up for 400. You do the same thing. You copy it. You first select it, then copy, then open the Word file and paste it here. Okay. Once you're done, then you do file, save as, and whatever name I ask you, say save this report for the budgets as report number 4. You save it, and then you give it to me for marking. Okay. That's how you will print different budgets. Okay, so I'm not going to save it now. Okay, so for this report, you don't need to print it on your computer. You just print it on a screen, save it as a Word file, and then use that while you're reporting, when you're submitting all the reports. So this was what I wanted to explain you in the budget, and as long as you know how to set up the budget for different accounts, then you should be okay and you should be good to go. The only last thing that I wanted to explain you guys is doing a comparable. So if you are working in a company and the company is using the budgets, you can use fiscal set comparisons to review the different budgets. For example, you completed the month of January. You wanted to compare your actuals with the budget. What you can do is you can open up the sales account, and here you can say, you know what, compare the actuals with budget 1, and you click on the arrow. You see that there is no actuals right now, you only see the budget. So once you have the actual, you see the actuals, you see the budget, and then you see the difference, and it tells you whether you're doing good or bad in a particular month. Okay, that's how you can use the budget. Now there's no reports, you can only compare it on a screen, maybe take a screenshot and compare it with your managers when you're reviewing it. Okay, so this will be the end of lesson 5. Now once you finish lesson 5, I want you to do the same thing just for your own practice to create a backup end of lesson 5 and then close it. So I'm gonna do this last time. I'm gonna do the backup, but after that I'm sure you guys know how to do that. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to create a backup once you finish a chapter, and then going forward this is something that you guys have to do it by yourself, and I'm sure by this time you should have made all your notes in regards to the process of doing a database dump. Okay, so now to do a database dump, same process. Number one, you need to create a special folder that will name exactly what your backup should be. So you go into a temporary file. So if you're working on your C drive, you do the same thing, but you create a folder on the folder on your C drive where you want to save all the backups. So here I'm going to add a folder. I'm going to call this end of lesson 5, and I'll put my initial at the end so I know this is the backup that I created. And then I go into the admin services, database dump. So it's not load, it's dump. And one of the common mistake, as I mentioned earlier, is people forget to select the right database. So you're working on Omni, you click Omni. If you are doing an assignment or the test, or you're working on ChatDat or another database, you need to download only those, dump on those ones. So here's Omni, browse, temporary folder, end of lesson 5. You press OK and you click dump. And you do the same thing with OmniSys. You always have to do both of them together. Dump. Okay. Now the dump is done. Now we need to go into the tools and zip that folder. So this is the folder. I'm going to click on the plus sign to zip it. Once the zip is done, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to download that on my PC. Temporary files, end of lesson. Now that one I'm going to download the zipped one, and this will get downloaded right here. You see that this is my backup. Now if I want to save it, what I'll do is I'll cut it, go into my C drive, and look for my folder for 204, and I have Omni backups, and I put it right here. Okay, this is my backup end of lesson 5. Okay, so keep your things organized the way that you want it to organize them, and it should be available for you to see it. Okay, and that's how you finish up your lesson 5. Okay, so this will be the end of lesson 5, and then I'll come back in the next lecture for lesson number 6. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.